Your top stories this evening, sponsored by Courts Bringing Value Home. Government keeping an eye on foreign currency issue. No systemic shortage. JAGDEO, you are no longer welcome. Coalition leaders to VPAC. Moral and civic education soon to be incorporated in schools' curriculum. West Penitence resident up in arms as stagnant water continues to flood his yard. Young baby suffering. And in sport, Old Fort 2025 winners of the Bounty Supermarket National Hockey Indoor Championships. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm ALETHEA Grant with the Tuesday 11th November 2025 edition of the HGP Nightly News. This is what you should know this evening. As the government continues to keep a close eye on the foreign currency situation facing Guyana, it has been revealed that some major companies are willing to pay top dollar for the U.S. currency, a move that has contributed to a shortage for ordinary citizens. Here's that story.
In October of 2025, President Irfaan Ali announced that government had injected US $1.2 billion into the market to cushion demand. However, despite this intervention, several businesses continue to complain about limited access to the US dollar. General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party and Vice President JAGDEO told reporters at his weekly press conference on Thursday that the administration is monitoring what appears to be manipulation in the foreign exchange system.
We are monitoring it, and as I said before, you have people who put in multiple requests. A lot of the businessmen, when we look at their framework, we see multiple requests. They'll go to 5 banks and put in the same request at several banks.
He explained that the apparent slowdown in the flow of foreign currency could be linked to 2 main factors, including transactions that cannot pass through the formal banking system.
There is a bigger shortage of notes, though, and that pushes up the cost price of notes, like the exchange rate for notes versus the bank drafts. And the reason is that the illicit users, they want to buy the notes because they can't come through the banking system.
JAGDEO emphasized that there is no systemic shortage of foreign currency in Guyana, assuring that the government has adequate reserves and remains committed to maintaining financial stability.
We have adequate funds to inject in the banking system. We have adequate funds.
Some businesses complain that the exchange rate has reached as high as $230 to US $1 in some transactions.
So some of these companies, like some Chinese companies and others, they go and buy the notes. They're prepared to pay more for the notes. So it's creating a shortage of the notes more because they can't come through the formal banking system.
Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.
Forward Guyana Movement and the People's Movement have severed all ties with the Vigilant Political Action Committee VPAC over its public conduct. The party stressed that VPAC's latest public iteration was the final straw that broke the camel's back. Marvin Cato reports.
The People's Movement shall have no political or other interaction with VPAC because their conduct is unbecoming.
That was leader of the People's Movement indicating that his party's membership is disgusted with the conduct of the Vigilant Political Action Committee, VPAC, and will no longer engage them.
Our executive made it abundantly clear that after witnessing the conduct, they were not comfortable with moving forward with negotiations for the new coalition for the next 5 years.
Leader of Forward Guyana Movement and the coalition's parliamentary representative, Amanzo Walton-Desir, also put forward her party's views on the former coalition partner.
So the position for Forward Guyana Movement, for Forward Guyana, is the identical position. The agreement ended, and so we are not going to be renewing it.
They both stressed that they tried mediation to come to a consensus after VPAC's first public berating of the coalition leaders. However, in the middle of talks, there was an ultimatum given, which according to the coalition leaders was not necessary at the time. Hence, the need to walk away from the partnership.
I have a problem with leadership that doesn't understand that you require temperance to be leaders.
During the live discourse, it was revealed that VPAC wanted the coalition's one seat in parliament to rotate equally among the three party representatives and that Walton Desir should give up the role of leader of the list. VPAC's leader, being a U.S. citizen, was ineligible, hence the party's general secretary, Francis Bailey, was proposed. That brought stern resistance from the People's Movement leader, London.
And if it is a case where you believe that at any small offense or you don't agree with something, you go and you'll expose everybody.
It is important to note that the coalition's life ended on the 2nd of September, and it was expected that discussions surrounding renewal would be held on the way forward. Marvin Cato reporting for HGP Nightly News.
The Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance on Tuesday hosted an anti-corruption roundtable bringing together government and private sector representatives to strengthen efforts in combating corruption. Find out more from Tiana Cole.
Acting Prime Minister and Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Gail Teixeira, has underscored that strengthening public institutions remain an ongoing national priority in the fight against corruption. The discussion was held under the theme, quote-unquote, partnering to build resilient public and private institutions in Guyana's fight against corruption.
The access to the services for the public, equitable access, easy access, reduction of long delays is a critical part of reducing and preventing corruption in the government circles.
Teixeira highlighted that the Office of the Auditor General has significantly increased in surveillance and monitoring of more government agencies, which is essential in ensuring transparency and accountability.
So that when they say they reviewed 829 contracts totaling $48.19 billion, and that only 3% were cited for overpayments. This is, again, a big issue.
She noted that one of the recurring concerns in anti-corruption convention's reports is the management, verification and protection of records, particularly when the cases reach the courts. The minister further explained that Guyana has repeatedly requested international assistance in strengthening prosecutorial, investigative, and judicial capacities to address corruption cases more effectively.
This is a 2022 document. I regret to say that those cases remain incomplete at the courts of Guyana.
Teixeira stressed that justice must be both timely and efficient, emphasizing that the final stage of anti-corruption efforts, investigation, enforcement, and prosecution must be strengthened.
And that is the issue of how these matters are addressed in the courts of Guyana. Because this is where we get into trouble. At the international level, we are asked. You reported on these issues 3 years ago. What has happened? And we can only say that before the courts.
She added that within the past 5 years, Guyana has made notable progress in governance reviews conducted by regional and international bodies such as the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF, the United Nations, and the Organization of American States, OAS. Tiana Cole reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
3 foreign nationals are now being sought by the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit KANU in connection with a major cocaine bust at Hydroni, Perica, on the east bank of Essequibo. Travis Chase has been following that story.
Just last night we had another seizure involving a foreign national, a Guyanese, in the Perica area where drugs were coming in, managed to intercept it in photos for the transit. So we've had seizures in ALETHEA, we've had seizures in Berbice.
That's head of KANU James Singh confirming to reporters that anti-drug agents conducted a targeted raid at a residence in Perica, where they unearthed over 50 pounds of cocaine believed to have been destined for transshipment overseas. Following the seizure, 2 Venezuelans and 1 Colombian were named as persons of interest. They are Colombian nationals Camilo Morales Gonzalez of Hatfield Street, Workmanville, Georgetown, and Venezuelans Richard Daniel Rodriguez Criello and Hernan Daro Martinez. Nightly News understands that CANU issued the wanted bulletins for the trio 3 days after the narcotics were intercepted. The agency said the operation forms part of its ongoing crackdown on international drug trafficking networks operating through Guyana's ports. Meanwhile, on Saturday, CANU destroyed more than US $19.3 million worth of narcotics along Homestretch Avenue, Georgetown, the culmination of several completed court cases and successful interdictions. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.
We have more news for you. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with the HGP Nightly News. The Ministry of Public Works has sounded the alarm to motorists, saying you will pay if you damage government property. Marvin Cato reports.
The notice is given. The parties responsible will have to pay. And I repeat, you damage government property, you will be made to pay.
That was Minister of Public Works, Juan Egil, lamenting the fact that once you damage public property, you will be held financially accountable.
But there is also a phenomenon where government property is being damaged as well. Well, we are giving notice and we are working with the Guyana Police Force.
The ministry is feverishly working with other agencies to have this matter finally addressed.
We're giving notice. A motorist is in an accident and you damage a lamp pole, a traffic light, the guardrails, you break out the head walls for bridges and culverts. The notice is given.
The minister stated also that owners and operators of heavy-duty equipment will also be brought to task.
We also have a situation where owners of excavators and other heavy-duty machinery are walking on newly paved roads without putting the pads. So they're digging into the asphalt, destroying road shoulders, and we're indicating this practice must stop.
The minister has long been pleading with all and sundry about destruction of public property, which has apparently fell on deaf ear and has now moved from engagement and warnings to strict enforcement, utilizing existing legislation to deal with defaulters. This forms part of a broader government approach to improve accountability, ensure efficiency, and preserve national infrastructure for the benefit of the public. Marvin Cato reporting for HGP Nightly News.
In a significant step towards creating safer and more compassionate learning environments, the Ministry of Education will soon incorporate a moral and civic education component to the national schools curriculum, as well as a website for reporting bullying in schools. This was recently announced by Education Minister Sonia Parag. Antonio Day has more.
The Ministry of Education is constantly engaging officials at the national level to combat the scourge of bullying in schools. Minister of Education Sonia Parag, in making the announcement over the weekend, said her ministry will soon incorporate moral and civic education into the national school curriculum, as well as a website for reporting incidents of bullying.
I said publicly that we will have a zero-tolerance approach, not only as the Ministry of Education, but as the government of Guyana in relation to bullying.
As part of this new campaign, the Ministry of Education has already introduced the Management Information System Unit platform. This secure digital reporting tool allows students, parents, and teachers to report instances of bullying or harassment. Parag urged stakeholders to work together towards a common goal of making schools safer and more inclusive, promoting accountability to foster a culture of respect and strengthen students' overall well-being.
It has to be that we're all playing an active part as a sense of community and contribution to community, that we are going to be the guardians of every single child in this country.
Meanwhile, Home Affairs Minister Onish Waldron, in her remarks, noted that the goal is to devise feasible mechanisms to address bullying in schools with practical, coordinated, and compassionate action.
The goal is to come up with a solid, actionable plan policy in order to tackle this scourge. We view
school safety as central to our mandate. School safety is public safety. It is a security issue, one that demands the attention of all of us.
Minister of Human Services and Social Security, Dr. Vindhya Prasad, reaffirmed her ministry's role in eradicating bullying and promoting youth empowerment.
We also have to look at how we'll build a cadre of educators, community leaders, religious leaders, and persons out there who will not only be accountable, but who can be part of this engagement, because bullying also happens outside schools.
Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
In a move aimed at improving organ donation and transplant services, Guyana and Brazil have launched a joint initiative to modernize systems, train personnel, and develop new action plans for the health sector. Tiana Cole reports.
Guyana and Brazil have strengthened their partnership to advance organ donation and transplantation services, as both countries move to enhance capacity and improve the national transplant system. On Monday, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony met with a visiting delegation from Brazil's Ministry of Health and the Brazilian Cooperation Agency, ABC, to advance collaboration on the prospective mission on organ donation and transplantation, being held from November 10 to 11, 2025 in Georgetown. The Brazilian delegation, comprising technical experts from the country's national transplant program, is conducting a rapid assessment of Guyana's existing transplant infrastructure. The evaluation will help identify priority areas for collaboration, capacity building, and system improvements to strengthen the national transplant program. Minister Anthony emphasized the need to accelerate establishment and operationalization of the Human Leukocyte Antigen HLC laboratory, a critical component for organ matching and transplant compatibility. He also highlighted the importance of training laboratory personnel, introducing quality assurance protocols, and improving every stage of the transplant process, from organ retrieval to surgical procedures and system-wide readiness. As part of the mission, the Brazilian experts will visit key health institutions, including the nephrology and transplantation departments and the Central Medical Laboratory at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, GPHC. They will also engage in technical discussions with local clinicians to identify areas for joint action and support. Following the assessment, the team is expected to develop a detailed action plan outlining specific activities and timelines to address gaps identified in the system. Implementation of the plan will begin immediately after the mission concludes. Tiana Co reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Stay tuned, we have more news for you. Welcome back. You with the HGP Nightly News. As we continue, the community of West La Penitence is currently facing the brunt of overflooding drains due to concrete roads that were recently constructed. One resident, Kevin George, is urging the relevant authorities to immediately remedy the situation. Antonio Day was there and filed this report.
Kevin George, a West La Penitence Georgetown resident, is confronted by a serious environmental hazard. Due to the recent construction of a concrete road over a nearby drain, the resident has to face the brunt of filthy water overflowing in his yard. He told Nightly News that when it rains, the situation worsens.
Now, with the new road, the new infrastructure road, with this concrete road, they cast over the gutter, right? And in doing such now, it caused a problem for the water to get to flow. Even without the rain falling, the water still is stagnant and it's high.
George noted that when he was overseas for a few months, and upon his return, he was devastated by the current situation. He said his newborn baby, mother, and other family members are in a state of discomfort due to the stench.
I have my niece, a newborn baby. She lives here, and today, the baby can't get to come downstairs probably because of the smell, and that's not healthy for me as well, for my mother, for my sons, and so forth.
Noting he's not against developmental works being undertaken, George, however, questioned the competence of the engineer, as he believes it was unwise to build a concrete road over existing drains.
The engineer that was involved in this area that had to approve this work should have known that you cannot cast a concrete structure over a gutter. I don't know if they put it in thought, the project manager, whoever was involved in this infrastructure work, there was some negligence to high level.
Nightly News reached out to Minister of Public Works Juan Edgel for a comment, but this proved futile. Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
The government of Guyana, through the Ministry of Natural Resources, signed a production sharing agreement, a PSA, for shallow water block S4 offshore Guyana with a consortium comprising Qatar Energy, Total Energies, and Petronas. Antonio Day has that story.
The government of Guyana, through the Ministry of Natural Resources on Tuesday, signed a production sharing agreement PSA for shallow water block S4 offshore Guyana with a consortium comprising Qatar Energy, Total Energies, and Petronas. Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat, during the signing ceremony, stated that the PSA marks a watershed moment in Guyana's oil and gas sector.
Already we have in the Stabroek block, we have Exxon, we now have Chevron, we have CNOOC, and now in the S4, we are having Qatar Energy, Total Energy, and Petronas. It is significant to have these companies exploring in the Guyana Basin.
The minister reaffirmed the government's commitment to ensuring that all petroleum operations are executed with the highest levels of environmental stewardship, transparency, and community participation.
Not only were we focusing on production, exploration, and speeding up production, but at the same time, we were busy building out the framework to manage the sector, a framework that can be considered world-class. The
company View were awarded under the 2022 Guyana licensing round, the country's inaugural bid round, marking another major step towards responsibly developing of Guyana's hydrocarbon resources. Block S4 spans an area of approximately 1,788 square kilometers, located 50 to 100 kilometers off Guyana's coast in water depths ranging between 30 to 100 meters. Exploration activities will be conducted in keeping with Guyana's regulatory requirements and international best practices for environmental protection and resource management. Minister Bharat stated that the government is looking forward to working closely with the energy moguls in the consortium as Guyana continues to strengthen its position as a responsible and emerging energy producer.
Every investor that comes to our shore and sign an agreement with us, they are of the understanding that this partnership will have to be a win-win partnership.
Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Stay tuned for regional news.
Good evening and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Regional News. I'm Antonio Day. Here is what you need to know in the regional and international diaspora. Caribbean Community CARICOM foreign ministers say that they are gravely alarmed at the escalating conflict, immense suffering, displacement, tragic loss of life, and dire humanitarian crisis in Sudan. It said that these abusers, including rape and abduction, violate international law, directly oppose the 1993 UN Declaration on the elimination of violence against women, and exacerbate the humanitarian catastrophe. Quoting, "There can be no impunity for these crimes. The Caribbean community supports the work of international investigative bodies, including the International Criminal Court, ICC, to ensure that all perpetrators are held accountable," the statement read. Sudan is facing the world's largest humanitarian crisis. Since 2023, the ongoing conflict has killed more than 150,000 people. Entire communities have been wiped out, more than 12 million have been forced to flee their homes, and hospitals have been deliberately targeted. Amnesty International, in a recent statement, said that they, together with its partners on the ground, they have documented deliberate attacks on civilians, hospitals, and displacement sites. Continuing with news in the Caribbean, the California-based Haitian Bridge Alliance, HBA, has condemned in the strongest possible terms, quote-unquote, a newly issued guidance by the Trump administration instructing consular officers to consider chronic health conditions when determining visa eligibility for Caribbean and other applicants under the public charge rule. If this guidance is allowed to stand, no immigrant applying for a visa or green card will be safe. End of quote. HGP Director Jeremy Joseph told the Caribbean Media Corporation, CMC. Continuing, any illness, no matter how manageable, could become grounds for denial. It is arbitrary, capricious, and fundamentally contrary to the principles of due process, equal protection, and human rights. Joseph said that HBA calls on the United States Congress, the United Nations, the African Union, the Organization of American States, the Caribbean Community CARICOM, the European Union, faith communities, and all human rights defenders to condemn this apartheid-era logic embedded in U.S. refugee policy and to demand a reversal of this determination. The United States cannot claim moral authority abroad while practicing racial triage at its borders, Joseph said. And finally, with international news. The United States Senate on Monday approved a compromise that would end the longest government shutdown in the U.S. history, breaking a weeks-long stalemate that has disrupted food benefits for millions, left hundreds of thousands and federal workers unpaid, and snared ill traffic. The 60-40 vote passed with the support of nearly all of the chamber's Republicans and 8 Democrats who unsuccessfully sought to tie government funding to health subsidies that are due to expire at the end of the year. While the agreement sets up a December vote on those subsidies, which benefit 24 million Americans, it does not guarantee that they will continue it. Thanks for watching. I'm Antonio Day. Goodbye and be safe.
Let's now join Darwin Neblet for HGP's Sports Pulse.
Good evening, Guyana. I'm Darwin Neblet with your HGP TV Sports Pulse for today, Tuesday, November 11, 2025. We begin tonight with hockey. Action concluded in the 2025 Bounty Supermarket National Indoor Hockey Championships on Sunday. The Old Fort Hockey Club emerged as winners in the men's first division category after recording a 3-2 victory over Saints. Old Fort also secured victory in the men's second division category, once again defeating Saints 4-2 in the final. On the women's side, GBTI GCC prevailed as champions after consistent performances throughout the tournament, including a 6-2 victory against the Hikers and a 2-0 victory against the Old Fort Infernos. Into basketball, Spain-based professional Joy Adams has been named captain of Guyana's senior women's basketball team, which will tip off its campaign on Wednesday evening against the Bahamas at the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall. 5 countries, Guyana, the Bahamas, the Virgin Islands, Suriname, and Jamaica will compete in a round-robin format to determine the champion of the FIBA Women's Caribbean Championship, which returns for the first time since 2022. The tournament runs daily from 16 hours 30 until November 16, with the top 3 teams advancing to the 2026 Central Basket Women's Championship. Following their opening match against the Bahamas at 20 hours 30 on Wednesday, Guyana will face the Virgin Islands on Thursday, November 13, Suriname on Saturday, November 15, and will close the tournament with a highly anticipated showdown against Jamaica on Sunday, November 16. Moving into football, the 2025 Ghana Football Federation Blue Water Girls Under-15 National Football Championship concluded this weekend at the National Training Center in Providence. The Anai Secondary of Region 9 emerged as the 2025 champions after defeating Marian Academy in a keenly contested final. President's College finished 3rd after defeating Waramuri Secondary in a sudden death thriller that went to a whopping 15 penalty kicks before Shamela Blake sealed the deal. Individual awards went to President's College's Michaela Walker for the best goalkeeper, as both Ashanti Scott of Bushlot Secondary and Kimura Edwards of President's College, with 12 goals each, were the highest goal scorers of the season. The league MVP award was presented to Aliyah John, representing the champions Anai Secondary. More in football, action resumed in the 2025 Republic Bank Under-18 Schools Football League with 4 fixtures at the Ministry of Education ground on Sunday. The first match was a close 2-1 victory for the 3 Mile Secondary over Abramzul Secondary, as Abramzul's Geraldo Culpepper scored once and both Ronaldo Washington and Travis De Silva scored once in a winning effort. In match number 2, Charlestown Secondary produced a commanding 3-0 victory over President's College on the back of goals from Dilshon Alain, Adriel Hamilton and Adian Marks. South Ranville Secondary and Dolphin Secondary played to a 1-1 draw in match number 3, as South Ranville's Tyrese Pemberton and Dolphins' Sion Grant each scored once for their respective sides. In the final match, defending champions Chase Academic Foundation secured a dominant 3-0 victory over West Ranville Secondary, as the captain Brian Wharton netted a double and Mark Glasgow scored once in a winning effort. Finally, in cricket, action went down in the 2025 Doomsday The Last Dance Cricket Festival at the Blairmont Sports Club ground on Sunday. The Rose Hall Town Youth and Sports Club, led by national all-rounder Clinton Pestano, emerged as champions after remaining unbeaten in 3 fixtures, defeating the Young Warriors in the first round, Tugba Park Sports Club in the semi-finals, and the West Berby Super Kings in the final. Tugba Park also defeated the Albion Community Centre Cricket Club in the first round, as runners-up West Berby Super Kings defeated Cotton Tree in their first match, and then defeated the host Blairmont Blazers in the semi-finals before losing to the champions Rose Hall. Individual awards were presented to players of the match in every fixture, as the Rose Hall Town Youth and Sports Club's Kevin Sinclair was recognized as the player of the tournament. That's it for this edition of the HGP TV Sports Pulse. I'm Delwyn Nevlet, reminding you to stay in the game.
Government keeping an eye on foreign currency issue. No systemic shortage. JAGDEO. You are no longer welcomed. Coalition leaders to VPACT. Moral and civic education soon to be incorporated in schools' curriculum. West Penitence residents up in arms. Stagnant water continues to flood his yard. Young baby suffering. And in sport, all the 4th 2025 winners of the Bounty Supermarket National Hockey Indoor Championships. Those are our major headlines. For these stories and more, please go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm ALETHEA Grant. Thanks for watching.